Tampa police officer. Body cam video was released this week from an officer's interactions with residents last year in Ybor Heights. In the video, the officer brags about delivering a flying knee to a black suspect, and he swears at bystanders and calls them names. Hillsborough County NAACP President, African-American Yvette Lewis, says she's very upset an officer would use that type of language and that tone. Automakers are laying off more workers as contract talks between the UAW and the Big Three automakers roll on. The UAW strike kicked off a week ago, prompting Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis to send workers home at affected plants. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Dell Technologies and Intel are pushing what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Is this the title?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
The Dodgers kept pace with Atlanta for Major League Baseball's best record. They beat the Giants last night by 5. Designated hitter J.D. Martinez drove in 3 runs. The Dodgers are 3.5 games behind Atlanta for the best record and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Interesting decision Saturday for college football fans in the western part of the country. The Colorado-Oregon game and UCLA's matchup at Utah both have 12:30 p.m. kickoffs. All 4 teams are 3-0 and ranked in the top 25. The UCLA-Utah game is on Fox. ABC is carrying the Colorado-Oregon game. This will be the first Pac-12 conference game for Colorado coach Deion Sanders. 5th-ranked USC has a night game Saturday at Arizona State. 7:30 kickoff on Fox. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
On Monday, October 9th, don't miss the KBLA Talk 1580 exclusive. The tape. 1 year later.
Y'all were coming for us.
Yeah, but Tavis, that's not in my heart. I wasn't coming for anyone like that. I apologize, but that was not me. That's not in my heart. And like I said a few moments ago, I have a solid, demonstrable record of shared power that's real and concrete. That can't be misinterpreted.
Join Tavis Smiley and an all-star panel of political insiders, influencers, and journalists for a look back at the crisis that shook LA City Hall when 4 Latino leaders were caught on tape making racist, demeaning, and derogatory statements about black people and other fellow citizens. On Monday, October 9th, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, The Tape. 1 year later. We're broadcast live in afternoon drive from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. When all was said and done, was more said than done. 1 year later. Are there fractures in LA's black-brown political partnership? And where do we go from here? Don't miss The Tape. 1 year later. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Monday, October 9th. Live from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. We've got a lot to talk about.
First things first.
Things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DePrima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DePrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. The show is called First Things First. My first thing every day, y'all know, Giving thanks, giving praise, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and getting it going. Hour 1 is the local thing, the left coast, what's going on around here. Hour 2, we go national, international, and beyond. In the third hour, we do a deep dive with a person of interest or a topic that's top of mind. And that's exactly how we're doing it today. You're invited in every hour, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580 today, hour 3. Well, you know, we're kind of on a literacy, literature, writers, creative vibe today. This morning, okay, I'm tired. I'm tired too. Dr. Brenda Green will be joining us in hour 3, the Black Literature Club, but you don't know nothing about that. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. I'm so happy, though, right now to have with me live in studio, which means you can see us on the YouTubes at KBLA 1580. He's the author of the Los Angeles Times bestseller, The Divine Nine, A History of African American Fraternities and Sororities. He has he's got another book called Blackballed, The Black and White Politics of Race on America's Campuses. And, of course, he is a professor and one of the founders of Creative Space in Leimert Park, known as the Metaphor Club. Dr. Lawrence Ross, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a minute. And the reason I say Writers Creative Jam this morning is that that's exactly what your business, your Black-owned business, does.
Yeah. Yeah, we just actually went over 5 years in August. So
wow, congratulations!
Thank you so much, and you're a big part of that because reaching your audience, a lot of people that every time I come on, they become members, so it's always great. So yeah, we hit the 5-year mark, and we began it as a space for writers. I used to write at quote unquote Magic's Starbucks, even though he didn't own it for but Black folks, we're just still gonna call it that anyway. But we knew that there was a need for a place for particularly people of color, but Black folks in particular, to come in their neighborhood where they could actually do it inexpensively and write, get instruction, get education and the like. And so I joke with my wife. Excuse me. I joke with my wife is that I decided I wasn't going to join a co-working space for like $300. So I decided to spend tens of thousands of dollars to be able to open up a space. Not the best in terms of economics when you look at it, but it was always qualitatively in terms of the fulfillment for the Black folks who come into our space. It was way more profitable than you could actually have for me going individually to something over in Santa Monica. So yeah, we are kind of like the hub for particularly young emerging Black writers. That's particularly centered around screenwriting in particular. That's one of our focuses.
And of course, I know that any creative can join. You join, and then you have a space away from your home where you can go and concentrate, but also get enriched. You guys have a lot of enrichment programs.
Yeah, one thing that we have is as part of our center is kind of like shrinking access and privilege. If we have it, then we bring it to Crenshaw. We're born and raised off Crenshaw, so our thing is, we don't come back to the neighborhood to give back. We still live in the neighborhood, so
continuously giving back.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we recognize everything. My partners and I recognize that. Everything that we've gotten was from Crenshaw. Me going to Berkeley, my other partner going to Stanford. He went to Dorsey. It was all off Crenshaw. And so one of the things that we decided to do was anything that we learned, we would bring it back. So I always joke that I'm a recovering UCLA film school grad. And so, I love, UCLA, but it had its issues. And one of the issues was that when I was in grad school, they like to tell you that there are 5,000 people apply for the screenwriting program and only 25 got in to make you feel nice and special. But the problem was there was only 2 Black people, and I was one of them. And what that means is not just the representation in this room, but when I wrote things, this is 15 years ago, when I wrote things that would have Black references or Black characteristics, or these are just not brown-skinned white people. A lot of times when we read them, and my classmates were great, but they wouldn't get references or my community. And the next year they decided, we're going to add 10 more people to our, to the cohort. Right. And I was like, oh, great. It's going to be 35. We should triple this. Right. And they got 1 Black person. And I said, when we opened up the Metaphor Club, I said, you know what, we're going to change that. We'll switch it up, and we're going to hear Black people's voices. So one of the things we do, and we're kind of known for, is the first 10 pages of your script for Black screenwriters. It doesn't matter whether or not this is your first time you've ever done it, or you've been staffed. You can come in on a monthly basis, and we bring actors together to actually read your pages, so you can hear how those pages actually are going. That really became an important thing in the neighborhood, because there is no place, or at least when we first started 5 years ago, to have that happen. And so people almost always swamp us to get their pages read. It's very critical, because it's a critical step for writers, because you have those voices in your head when you're writing them and you think they sound great. But when you have actors have to really read the dialogue, or to see where the various elements actually work, it only happens when you have a table read. And we always invite anyone to come here. It's great. It's like listening in to the first 10 minutes of Netflix, right? When you're hit a show that they say to go watch, and you're going, I don't know if that works for me, and then you change the channel, or you're just engrossed, and that allows the people to actually understand whether or not their pages are working.
That's amazing. And of course, writers are on strike right now, which can't be great for the Metaphor Club. Yeah,
it's a domino effect. I mean, we support the writers, and we always have supported the writers. But the realities are that what happens is that when you have it's a little bit like the pandemic. When the pandemic occurred, we joked to ourselves, we practiced for tsunami, riots, earthquakes, fires, but not a global pandemic that actually whose business model for whose effects really hit a business model of collectively bringing people together in a space. The same thing for the strike, the WGA strike. We want them to get everything that they deserve, but it does, because when writers are out of work, they can't pay dues, and one of the things that happens is that we only charge $99 a month, but our people are very, very loyal in terms of paying their dues on a monthly basis. But, it's practical. If you can't pay your dues, if you can't, have income coming in, you can't pay your dues. So we're rooting for a settlement, but not a settlement just on, settlement's work. We want a settlement that really does reward the writers.
Yeah, and looks like we're seeing some daylight here. Hopefully we'll see some progress. The writers and the studios have met for 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
I think that's the first I've heard of that since this has started in May.
Yeah. I think I don't know what day we're on right now for the strike, but I think the last one in the mid-2000s was like about 100 and something days. But you kind of knew that this was going to be a lot longer, because we're at a kind of a crossroads, because for the writers, they're looking at, residuals for the streaming services that are just pennies. And what's really happening is that oftentimes, 20, 30 years ago, a writer could work on a show that was, on the network, ABC, NBC, or CBS, and pay, for their mortgage or send their kids to school by residuals, So if you worked on, quote unquote, worked on Living Single, or if you worked on Friends, or if you worked on whatever, you could make money long after the show ended, because it was playing in England, it was playing across the United States. You would get checks, just like when I get royalty checks for books. But now it's kind of everything's trying to be turned into like a gig economy, where you come to write, and we parse it out. Well, excuse me, not we, but the studios parse it out so that you have shorter amounts of time to actually work, so you only get paid X amount of weeks, and then you got to go back out and try to hustle up some more work at a different show. And then also it's really opaque when it comes to how much money that they're actually getting from streaming, because they don't show the writers what the numbers are. So if the easy way to say it would be like, if it's a show on ABC, NBC, or CBS, you can look at the ratings. Nielsen will tell you what the ratings are. You can go, oh, this is a hit show, But with it coming on streaming, they can say, well, we have 3 billion streams. Okay, do we know that? Can anyone else see it? And they don't really show. They don't show.
Right, and what do those streams add up to in terms of dollars is another very mysterious thing. If you look on Netflix, everything is always a top 10 show. Right?
Everything is always a top 10 show. Yeah.
We have no idea of top 10 what.
Right.
They kind of just run their own sort of marketing thing, and that leaves actors and writers at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and we keep getting these stories of writers who win awards, and for shows that are phenomenal, and they're winning the awards. They can't make it. They don't have gas money to get to the award show.
Yeah, that was kind of the story of Squid Games, which was one of the hugest hits of the past year.
Oh yeah, and international, because that's a Korean a production. What typically would happen is that, okay, in America they would go, have the fight over here, and we'll deal with the strike over here, but we'll source it out to international. Well, international productions, writers and the like were saying, wait, how come we're not getting paid? We're not we're not basically a writer's sweatshop over here. We want to get paid too, and we were paid pennies. And so it's a reckoning also for the studios, because the studios are kind of like bifurcated. You have your traditional studios, say for example the Disneys and the Paramounts and things like that, and then you have your Netflix and Amazons, who
are tech companies.
Yeah, tech
they're
companies,
really not necessarily creative companies, or they're emerging as creative companies.
Right.
They started as tech companies.
Yeah, they don't have any allegiance to what happened before. They look at,
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Well, they were at the table late into the night last night.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, they said, and it's. They said they're starting again today, so that's the first time 3 days in a row negotiating. Hopefully, we'll see some light at the end of this tunnel.
Yeah.
It's been 140 days.
Yeah, that's longer. I kind of wondered whether or not the studios would, I don't know, try to make it with some of the the early comments that some of the executives had about kind of wanting to crush the writers and things like that. I kind of had it in my head that might want to go all the way through the holiday season and try to do something to really make writers feel the pain, because this is still the old thing of workers and the capitalists,
big bosses, the fat cats.
Yeah.
But I think they overplay their hand, the studios. I think all these comments about starving people out and people losing their houses and actors being unrealistic, all it did was fire up the writers and actors more. And every time we turn around, there's another dumb quote or thing that gets people mad. Or I think there was a story in the LA Times about how Drew Barrymore saying she was going to bring back her show just re-energized everybody, sadly for her.
Yeah, and it was funny. I saw this one thing, it was like Drew just couldn't bear the strike in her 3 homes, what I mean?
Right.
And I think what happens is that I always talk to like the young emerging writers and things like that, and I always tell them to beware of fame. A lot of times fame is corrosive, and you get disconnected from how real people actually live, and I think there's that disconnect where not only do you personally disconnect, but you don't even have people around you to say, that's not really a good idea.
I was surprised that Bill Maher followed suit, because he's such an independent spirit, and he can be a bit of a curmudgeon, so I didn't expect him. But he also stepped back because he had said, we're going back to work, and then he rescinded that.
Oh, yeah. I have friends who were like, we're waiting for him. We are waiting for him when he gets to a studio. And I think as curmudgeon as you are, when you have to look people in the face and basically you're scabbing, or you're trying to break their their livelihood, you have to have some sort of, no matter how much you protest, some sort of moral part within your soul that says, I don't know if this is actually right.
And Bill Maher is a writer, so there's got to be a part of him that's going,
that's the
crossing my own picket line.
It's the whole point. It's literally shooting yourself in the foot, and it doesn't make any sense. And but there are people go ahead and decide to do that, but
I think the solidarity is holding right now.
And I loved how they from the start they had a really great, clear message of what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do. And they weren't going to be run over. And I love that fact.
Talking with Dr. Lawrence Ross, and you're invited to call in. Don't be scared. Dr. Ross is friendly. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DePrima, and this is KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Hi, this is LA City Councilman Kern Price, inviting you to the 28th Annual Central Avenue Jazz Fest on September the 23rd from 11 to 7 p.m. For nearly 3 decades, the Central Avenue Jazz Festival has paid homage to the legendary Central Avenue and its influence on jazz history. Jazz, blues, and Latin jazz will be featured on 3 stages of music. Co-headlining are Hubert Laws with special guest Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. Parking is limited, so Metro and rideshare are recommended. Hubert Laws with special guests Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. For more information, visit CentralAveJazzFest.com. CentralAveJazzFest.com. See you on the 23rd.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose America.
You're now in Big Tobacco's Fantasyland. Welcome. It's a healthier world where they want you to believe that vaping makes quitting cigarettes a breeze. Never mind the evidence that vaping leads to using both. And if you're younger, even better, teens who vape are 3 times likelier to use cigarettes. In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, the deadliest industry is your friend.
Big Tobacco's idea of smoke-free is a dangerous fantasy for us all. See reality at undo.org.
Moments like seeing my son's team cheer him on mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that has spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Right now, speaking of writers, we have one in the studio. Dr. Lawrence Ross is here. You know, you write about HBCUs and the Divine Nine.
Uh-huh.
And HBCUs really are having quite a moment.
Yeah, I mean, because, one of the things that, we've always, valued HBCUs. And it's kind of cyclical. One of the things that happens is that, for example, 30 years ago with, Different World that came out, and then people. Yeah, people who had never, particularly on the West Coast who didn't have a connection with HBCUs were like, hey, wait a second. You mean there are these schools that actually nurture and actually, want you to succeed versus battling on a PWI, a predominantly white institution? Sign me up. And so, I want to say the numbers went up 30 or 40%.
Wow.
In terms of its impact. And now with the end of affirmative action, you're going to start to see the exact same thing. You're going to start seeing, a lot of parents look at it because it's kind of chicken egg. You can still go to a predominantly white institution, particularly here in California, because one of the ways that the UC and the Cal State systems works is that it's relatively inexpensive in comparison to other state universities around the country. So you're going to still see black students go to various UCs and CSUs, but you're also going to see the applications for HBCUs just ramp up. Now the critical thing is for those HBCUs to get that are not the quote unquote big brands to start get those applications.
Right. And for people to understand where those are and what those are, because doesn't always say black in the title. In fact, it hardly ever says black in the title.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about the Morehouse or Spelman's, Morehouse being the all-men's college in Atlanta and Spelman being the exact same place, all women. Then you have Howard and, Fisk and, they're all around in terms of they've been, here basically since the end of the Civil War. And it's important for students to really go out and explore them. They all have, just like any other school, they all have like their emphasis. If you go to like North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central and things like that, really big engineering, emphasis. Going to Hampton, there's just over 100 different HBCUs, and I've been to pretty much most of them.
Wow.
And they're all wonderful to go to, and I think my big thing, like when I talk about the Metaphor Club, I say black space is intentional. You have to, go to intentional black spaces in order to be, I think your full self. Your full self. Doesn't mean that you can't, be on a PWI and be there and then gather and, and create a collective of black folks and create your own black space there. But there is something different about going to historically black college and university.
Yeah. It's funny you said it's cyclical, right?
Yeah.
I think the vice president being from Howard has also made it where you can't even get into Howard now. Howard is just off the charts.
Yeah, Howard is like, the one thing is my son is in grad school, and he had applied to Howard, but, we didn't get the notice until a little bit until he had already made his decision. And then afterwards he was like, I still would love to go check out Howard and everything. I said, but we didn't put that money down. So if he hadn't put the money down, he would have been able to go check it out and everything. But yeah, it's a wonderful experience, and I think it's an impactful experience, an important experience for black folks in particular.
Yeah, I was happy to see Councilmember Heather Hutt teaming up with the Michelle and Barack Obama Center to do that HBCU event.
Yeah.
I think it was last week.
Yeah.
To bring the flavor here locally. Because, we have CDU, Charles Drew, which is officially not an HBCU. I think we missed it by 1 year or something like that.
Yeah.
But it is really our only HBCU.
Right, out here in California. And I think we've seen a number of HBCU alums organize either, say, for example, alumni events. North Carolina Central played UCLA last week, and so at the Rose Bowl, you had a whole bunch of HBCUs alums come out, including the North Carolina Central alums come out. I think, in fact, one of my fraternity brothers, my Alpha fraternity brothers, is doing an HBCU kind of. I'm not completely sure, but it's kind of, I guess, like an expo out in Carson in late October, around the 28th or 29th. Right? Don't quote me on the exact date, but I know he's doing something out there. So a lot of the alums are really kind of pushing it out there and really being great ambassadors, because growing up in California, unless your folks, come from, various aspects, like they come from the South and they come to, Los Angeles, or they're HBCU alums and they have a direct connection, you can be disconnected from it. But I think the culture is starting to spread. I mean, even Beyonce, with the kind of, in her previous concerts where she had basically an HBCU band and, song girls and things like that, and dance teams and things like that. That really impacted people. They started asking questions. It's like, what is this? And it was like, this is HBCU culture that she's honoring. And that is one of those things that keeps going. But on the political, we still also have to keep our eyes open, because the exact same factors that in terms of how the people who do not want black people to be educated still happen for HBCUs at the same time. Funding at the state level, funding at the federal level. We've got to be vigilant.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But I think, it's good to see the culture, like you say, thriving here. I know it's this attorney at DMA. She's an entertainment attorney. Her and some other, there are Bisons, they're alumni. Yeah. They have something called Howardwood, which is for people from Howard and Hollywood.
Oh, that's great.
And organizations like that, to your point.
Yeah, I mean, what those organizations always do is they basically say, and as I talk about it, is that they typically it's about I see you. You know what I mean? This I see you. We come from a common experience, and I'm not going to let you, like, Sisyphus, push the rock up the hill by yourself. The emphasis on our camaraderie goes beyond the gates. when we get a degree. So, the mere fact of being able to, help those people makes sense. As I was telling you off the air, the Metaphor Club, we just did an emerging Black screenwriters program, and I would ask people where they're from and where they went to school, and the HBCUs always crack me up because they're like, I'm here representing Fisk University, I'm representing Howard University, and so there's always this notion that the mission of HBCUs goes well beyond what it is on the campus.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're going into news, traffic, and sports right now, but it's interesting the Biden administration is pushing these some of the states that have land grant HBCUs to address the disparities in funding right now, and some of the HBCUs are stepping up with a lawsuit. Yeah. Well, they say they've been underpaid billions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, we find this all the time, and then also what happens a lot, for example, if I remember correctly, like Morgan State, for example, came up with a program. I think I want to say it was an MBA program that was really well done. And then the predominantly white institution was like, hey, we want to do the exact same thing.
Wow.
News,
traffic, and sports, and more conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 2 adults are dead and 5 students are in critical condition after a charter bus carrying members of a high school marching band rolled down an embankment in New York. Governor Kathy Hochul said Thursday's incident left more than 40 people injured. It happened in Orange County as the bus was going from Long Island's Farmingdale High School to band camp in Pennsylvania. African-American singer Lizzo is being sued again by another tour employee. According to court documents, Asha Daniels says that she was forced into inappropriate working conditions while on Lizzo's tour. The lawsuit claims Daniels was forced to hear racist comments and work up to 20 hours a day. Daniels allegedly alerted Lizzo's management team about the behavior but was eventually fired before her contract was set to end. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Dell Technologies and Intel are pushing what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Is this the title?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
The Dodgers kept pace with Atlanta for Major League Baseball's best record. They beat the Giants last night by 5. Designated hitter J.D. Martinez drove in 3 runs. The Dodgers are 3.5 games behind Atlanta for the best record and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Interesting decision Saturday for college football fans in the western part of the country. The Colorado-Oregon game and UCLA's matchup at Utah both have 12:30 p.m. kickoffs. All 4 teams are 3-0 and ranked in the top 25. The UCLA-Utah game is on Fox. ABC is carrying the Colorado-Oregon game. This will be the first Pac-12 conference game for Colorado coach Deion Sanders. 5th-ranked USC has a night game Saturday at Arizona State. 7:30 kickoff on Fox. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Have you heard about Lendustry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
Extended Family Outreach Ministry presents Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. Morning worship, keynote address, and conference featuring women in creative arts ministry and leadership sharing our stories, His glory, giving all praise, honor, thanksgiving, and glory to God. Don't miss the afternoon Stand Up and Sing Praises concert with the Katinas, gospel singer Babby Mason, Three Daughters, and Kevin Click. That's Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. For more information and tickets, go to PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com. Plus, for the next 48 hours, use promo code KBLA48 to get your tickets free. You do not want to miss this day of praise. That's PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, indeed. The Metaphor Club co-founder, Dr. Lawrence Ross, is here with us. If you want a safe space, a creative space to write, you can join. How do you join, by the way?
So you can either come into the space. We're open from 9 to 7 Monday through Friday and 9 to 5 on Saturdays. You can come into the space. We'll be happy to sign you up. Or if you email us, you can email us at contact@themetaphorclub.com, and we'll send you a link.
And anybody can join, or do you have to have certain credentials?
No. We are the least gatekeeper-y place in the world. Our whole thing is that, just be a good human being, when you come in, if you and respect everybody inside the club, and you'll instantly find yourself inside the community. And then, we also have we try to let people know we also have a space right next to our club that we actually rent out for like art program. We do everything. We always joke we rent it out for art galleries. We'll have a bridal fair in the morning. We'll have a baby shower in the afternoon, and then a repast in the evening. In our space. We literally had that in the past and everything. So we rent out our space right next. It's like a 1,200 square foot. Clean white box that we say you can transform into anything that you want just for $100 an hour, and then just give it back to us a clean white box, and we're good. Yeah.
And that's so you don't have to be a member to rent.
No, you don't have to be a member to rent that space out. So it's really, we have that space in particular. We were thinking about the folks who have an idea for something, whether or not it's let's say you're in real estate and you want to do a workshop, or you have a pop-up. So we've had pop-ups or workshops, and in particular art, for young people. I mentioned that my son is an artist. He graduated from Art Center. He's at SCAD now. And, I looked at it from the POV of if he wanted to do something, how could he do something that was still not, that was affordable, that he could invite his friends and other artists to do that wouldn't break their banks. And, again, our whole idea, our whole idea is to be of the community.
Right, and it's a great location. I mean, it's right there, right on Crenshaw, right across the street from KBLA, Talk 1580. Yes. Speaking of gatekeepery, what about this guy from one of the co-founders of Rolling Stone magazine? Who is it? Jann? Is that how you say his name?
Jann Wenner.
Yeah, he was also really like the main influential guy over the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, although they've kicked him to the curb.
Yeah.
He did an interview for the New York Times where he started talking. He was talking about a book he's done. So in this book, I guess he interviews what he considers the greats
right,
of rock and roll,
quote unquote masters of rock and roll,
right?
Which is ironic in itself, by the way.
Well, yeah. Now that you say it, it's quite ironic. But when he was explaining why everyone that he chose for his book, called the Masters, was white, and male,
and derivative of all the black people, who to the artist's credit, all have always said, no, I'm inspired by Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Tina Turner, all these black people. I am from England. We play Skittle music before this, and now we got Black American music, and we were inspired. Hell, even the title Rolling Stone itself is from black people, and so
that's a good point.
Yeah, and so one of the things but I'm not surprised. In my former life, I used to be the managing editor of Rap Sheet hip hop magazine out here in Southern California, and we knew Rolling Stone didn't like black people. Back then, it wasn't surprising. It was one of those gatekeepers where they looked at hip hop in particular as being this non-music, and that only real hip rock and roll was a white band. Even as frivolous as some of these bands were, that's how they looked at it. But then again, we have to go back 20, 30 years ago, particularly with Rolling Stone, 40, 50 years ago, about how segregated music was. And white people in particular, when it came to, being gatekeepers of what was true rock and roll.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if you don't even have to go back that far.
Yeah.
I think about the early days of hip hop.
Yeah. It was one of those things.
I know it's 50 years old, but I'm talking about like the 90s.
Yeah, I'm talking about the golden era, like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
mid-90s.
where it was still very segregated.
Yeah.
And look at MTV. They didn't back then. They didn't play black artists.
They like MTV loves to kind of gloss over the fact that they didn't and wouldn't play black artists. I mean, going back even earlier before with Michael Jackson, they weren't going to play Michael Jackson unless they were given a threat of like, you don't play Michael Jackson, you don't get the rest of our roster.
Right.
But when it came to hip hop, everybody else was having to do it basically either on a local, in terms of like Video Box in New York, or we both grew up, lived in the Bay Area. Soul Beat, used to
Home Turf. Don't forget my show.
Yeah, I know.
Home Turf,
yeah,
Home Turf and Soul Beat. Right. Soul Beat goes back a little further though.
Yeah.
But so for those who missed it, this guy said that no women or people of color were articulate enough on this intellectual level, so they cannot be seen as philosophers of rock.
And when I read that, all I could hear were black people's head exploding, because in particular he's talking about like an era like the 70s in particular, the late 60s, early 70s,
right? And
it's not okay. You pick just any other generation. Maybe you can argue over here and argue over there. You say, well, maybe the 80s were over here and something that wasn't really going on. It was a specific mindset. You're talking about Stevie Wonder with like a series of albums that have basically never been matched as a singer-songwriter. But you're also talking about, and he talked about women too. So he said
no women. And he said, and then he goes on to say, maybe for public relations sake, I should have gone and found one black and one woman artist to include here that didn't measure up to the same historical standard, just to avert this kind of criticism. It's like he would have to stoop to go and talk to Earth, Wind, and Fire, or stoop to go and talk to Nina Simone.
Well, because his
or Gil Scott Heron.
Yeah, talk about you telling me Gil Scott Heron is not a philosopher?
Not a philosopher at all. No.
So one of the things, even in that statement right there,
or James Brown, hell.
Everybody.
Lord.
Everybody. So right in that statement tells you right there how the racism is, right?
Yeah.
Because his default right there is that not just the idea of performative, I'm going to add some people. It's that I don't think any of them match what I call, my white metric of what it means to be a philosopher. The mere fact that he can't get out of whatever his silo is and recognize and which is the beauty of music, by the way, you are, the glorious beauty of music is not just listening or being in your own sphere and saying, I love this particular thing, but it's a broad sphere. I, as a black man, can appreciate Hank Williams. It is not hard for me to appreciate Hank Williams, but at the exact same time, I love all the different, black country artists, right? I can get into, because I appreciate music, I can appreciate them.
Right. Plus, you would never have the audacity to say that you're the one that gets to decide that there's no white person in this genre should be in the room because they don't have the intellectual capacity.
It's insane.
And no women. And the crazy thing about this to me is that, well, it's one of the crazy things is that this is Rolling Stone, the ultimate gatekeeper magazine. That being on the cover, being featured in Rolling Stone is a thumbs up or thumbs down for your entire legacy. Yeah. And this is the mentality of one of the gatekeepers, one of the co-founders. So how has this impacted the coverage of rock and roll over their entire history? Yeah,
that's exactly how systemic racism occurs. You have a gatekeeper with metrics that you up on the outside make it seem as, it's all egalitarian. We're just judging rock and roll and music on its merits, right? But in reality, the mentality is none of the black artists are deep enough or philosophical enough because I can't relate to them. That's what his whole deal was.
And or I've never talked to them or read anything they've written. Yeah. But you're right. They can't relate.
Yeah. And so therefore they become, if they're arrogant enough to believe that they are the metric for it, what don't they cover? What are the albums or what are the things? In fact, it's not even that. What are the things they emphasize? What are the ones or the artists that are black artists that they say, oh yes, this is truly what we should be covering? I remember at the beginning, and I don't want to be specific on Rolling Stone what they did, but I remember going back the early parts of hip hop, and Beastie Boys had come out, and the Beastie Boys were popular in the black community for a whole bunch of other songs and other things that in their first album. But if I remember correctly, Rolling Stone emphasized the most rock version of of Beastie Boys, which was like No Sleep to Brooklyn and everything. And I remember thinking about that. I was like, that's not what we even are listening to in the hip hop culture. And yet y'all determine that this is the most popular thing. This is the thing that we should emphasize as being the one that actually is the rock and roll version of
right, which is why these whiny posts and missives from people like Eminem and people like that just don't make any sense, because you always got extra love from Rolling Stone, from Time Magazine, from Newsweek. Yeah. You always got extra love.
You did not have that barrier
to get extra love.
Yeah.
Whether you're talented or not.
Right. They were looking for you.
Right.
They weren't looking, because they didn't have folks, reporters who were immersed in the culture and who were reporters. They had people who would dip into the culture and kind of try to interpret it and then go back with, I haven't been in a newsroom for a long time, go back to producers had no clue. And so what were they going to try to do? Lean toward what they know.
Yep. Yeah, I want to talk about the impact on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and your thoughts on that, because that apparently is a huge controversy now, too.
Yeah.
And does this change anything? We'll look at that when we come forward, talking with Dr. Lawrence Ross, and you're listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA, Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Applications are now being accepted for the City of Los Angeles Emergency Renters Assistance Program. The program provides up to 6 months of rental arrears to low-income residential renters who are at risk of homelessness due to unpaid rent as a result of COVID-19 or other financial hardship. Applications will not be accepted after 6 p.m. on October 2nd, 2023. Go online 24/7 at housing.lacity.org or call 888-379-3150 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and see if you qualify. Apply today.
What does access mean?
Access means owning a home. Access means growing my business.
Access means building generational wealth. No matter your goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Programs and initiatives provide the tools and resources to help you reach them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason from KBLA Talk 1580. Listen, if you're in the market for the best prices and the fastest delivery for custom-made roller shade, LA Custom Blinds is the place to be. Schedule a free estimate and they will come to your house, measure your windows, and bring a variety of fabrics to choose from. And then come back and install it all for free. The best part is that their factory is located right here in downtown Los Angeles, so they make the shades really fast. All you gotta do is go to lacustomblinds.com and schedule your free in-home estimate right now. Tell them Zoe Williams sent you.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Extreme heat can make you very sick and can be deadly. For Californians 65 and over, it's important to have a plan. Ask your healthcare provider if your medications affect your ability to cool down. Know the signs of heat illness and stroke, as well as the location of your nearest cooling center or air-conditioned space. And if you have loved ones over 65, be sure to check in on them on hot days. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, so Dr. Lawrence Ross is with us. He's an author. He is the co-founder of the Metaphor Club. If you want to be down, go to, I guess you can go to themetaphorclub.com and find out more.
Yeah, themetaphorclub.com, or just come by. Come by the club. We're at 4333 Crenshaw Boulevard in Leimert Park, where I always like to say we're across the street from KBLA, and we're also across the street from Taco Mel.
Yeah, you know, what a great shopping excursion that is.
Hey, I eat those 3 meat burritos like everybody else.
So we're talking about this guy, Jann Wenner, who's one of the co-founders of Rolling Stone, a guy who bragged about his influence as a chair of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and was really a gatekeeper there about who gets in.
Right.
And they have a whole board. Apparently, though, part of the dance of who gets into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has to do with whether or not they're going to show up to get their award and what the relations of the Hall of Fame are with the artists.
Right.
So they had a total meltdown when Mr. Wenner said these things in LA Times and immediately voted him off the board.
Right. And if you ever think about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you're constantly going, when a black person gets elected, you're constantly going, dang, they're just not getting elected.
Right.
You find yourself doing it because you would think that how it would go. Letting me, Mr. Ross from Inglewood, just do my thing. I'm going all black folks, right?
Yeah.
From the beginning, right?
Right.
It may be 20 years before we get to y'all, right? Maybe we'll get, Jerry Lee Lewis in the midst of all that and everything as we go through. But you know what? We're going black folks, y'all. And so it'll be like every year we're going to do 5, right? And it's going to be 5 black people until we finish getting all the early folks, the Little Richards, the Chuck Berrys and everything all in. And then we'll get to your era, that type of thing. But no, it's always black folks just like added on,
Right, an afterthought.
An afterthought.
An afterthought in your own genre. It's funny, too, because he made these sexist remarks, and this year's honorees are Kate Bush, Missy Elliott, Sheryl Crow. The Spinners are there.
Right.
George Michael posthumously.
Right.
Rage Against the Machine and Willie Nelson.
Yeah. In some ways, even the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a marketing gimmick, if you just kind of think about it, right? Because it's kind of trying to quantify the worth of musicians And it's like the same way the Grammys, I guess, does too. But it's trying to quantify the overall worth of like their careers. And if you go back, I bet you, if you go back and look at all the inductees, you could put it on a graph about when Warner's emphasis on like white rock from the 1960s. I bet you all those people are the ones who are, mostly in before most of the prominent black artists were in.
Yeah.
And even though their credit, and there's very rarely do I, the Rolling Stones will tell you, and Little Richard told him, I don't know if you saw the Little Richard documentary.
I did.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
And he was talking about, Little Richard told him, Mick Jagger, you were sleeping on my floor, right?
Yeah.
And they acknowledge, the debt that they had.
Yeah.
But, it's.
God bless them. Well, apparently there was a book that came out in 2017, The Sticky Fingers of Life and Times of Jann, Wenner, and Rolling Stone magazine, in which he's quoted saying that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he says, in a sense, it's owned by Rolling Stone. It's a creation of Rolling Stone. It's unfair to some people to say that, but that's what it is. It's my thing.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore. They voted him out of here. And I partly credit all the protests and marches of 2020 for making this happen so quick. You don't get to just talk. You don't get to just do that. Admit to widespread systemic discrimination.
Yeah.
And then keep on pushing.
Yeah.
Like in the past.
Yeah, but he thought he was comfortable enough to actually use that and use the justification. He never thought to himself that he would ever be held accountable to it. And guess what? Life comes at you fast.
Yes, it sure does. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
This season, your coffee orders are getting warmer, and your outfits are getting cozier. The world keeps changing, and so does COVID-19. That's why this season's COVID-19 shots have been updated. They're one of the best ways to help protect yourself against COVID-19. You can get a COVID-19 shot at the same visit as a flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC. Talk to your healthcare provider to learn more and schedule at vaccines.gov. And don't forget to get extra cinnamon spice. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose America.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
I wonder if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or Rolling Stone are going to do anything to try to, recover their images. We were reading during News, Traffic, and Sports that according to a study in 2019, just 7.7% of the people inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame through 2019 were women.
It's insane. It's insane.
Incredible.
And do you think what's kind of delicious about this? Do you think Rage Against the Machine is going to actually say something when they get?
Oh, well, I would imagine. I would imagine they should or would.
Yeah.
Apparently, when he was confronted with that, he said we have to be race neutral and gender neutral in judging music.
That's always a sign for white men. That's always like, we just want white men, y'all. So we don't want anything dealing with race or gender. That's always.
Don't call us out. We gonna just nominate our friends.
Yes, it's always if the default normal in my life is white men, that's what we gonna get, and that's basically whenever you hear that race neutral or gender neutral. I'm like, geez, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, I think your time always flies when you're here and we're talking. And thank you for coming in. Tell us once again how to support the Metaphor Club. I think it's an example of the great businesses that have opened in the midst of the gentrification wave, and we want you to thrive and stay.
Thank you so much. I mean, we, like I said, we survive on membership, and it allows us to do our educational projects and to, like I said, shrink access and privilege, bring all the people who are, from the community into the community within our community space. You can come into the space, 4333 Crenshaw Boulevard, at any point in time, or go to themetaphorclub.com and you can find a link to actually join. It's $99 a month, and we really appreciate it. We only live based upon the support of the community.
Now, if you have when you have your programs, can people pay to come in if they're not members?
Yes, they can. So there's usually a small fee for coming in. So we'll do everything for like a debate party. If there's a debate party, we do them very unusual compared to everywhere else. It's a black space, so we encourage you to talk back at the screen, and we give points for very petty things. I remember back in South Carolina, we gave Bernie Sanders, he had a heart attack, but we gave him points for being alive.
Oh, wow.
Like that. So it's a real fun way of being able to do this. But like I said, we're a co-working space, but we're also a community space.
So we can track all that at themetaphorclub.com. And, whether you want to join, you're ready to join, or you want to start checking out some of the events, we're all welcome.
We appreciate you, Don.
Thank you for all you do. It's the perfect time to call me. Hour 2 on a Friday. Freestyle phones, 800-920-1580. It is KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 2 adults are dead and 5 students are in critical condition after a charter bus carrying members of a